Hello and welcome back to Retro Collections with JR, a simple podcast diving into the media of decades past, from the reels of film to the grooves of vinyl and the pixels of cartridge games. I'm your retro collector host, JR Porter, and this week, we're dusting off the fedora and cracking the whip for one of cinema's most iconic adventures, Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Last time, we walked through the steel-plated streets of Detroit with Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, a film that fused satire and sci-fi with bullet-riddled precision. But today, we're taking a leap back in time to the early 1980s, where blockbuster filmmaking took a new turn toward adventure, myth, and pure cinematic fun. But before we uncover the secrets of the Ark, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Struggling with playing guitar? Having trouble reading music? Visit ultimateguitar.com where you can learn to shred like the best with our easy-to-read guitar tabs handmade by our seasoned and ever-growing community of musicians. With unlimited access to over 1.4 million tabs and chords, there's something to learn for every guitarist. Search by type, difficulty, tuning, and learn your favorite artists and songs today. We have tabs for guitar, bass, ukulele, and even piano. Our tabs feature built-in features and offline access for free, and even advanced learning tools for our pro subscribed users. Enroll in our online courses taught by real working musicians to expand your abilities to shred. We've got courses for newbies and for experienced guitarists looking to fine-tune their skills. Create a profile and join one of the largest online thriving musician networks around. Share, edit, and create your own tabs with the community and connect with other like-minded musicians. Save your favorites, learn to shred, ultimateguitar.com. Download today on Android or iOS. Welcome back to Retro Collections with JR. Today, we're journeying into one of the most beloved adventure films of all time, Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg and released in 1981. This movie wasn't just another action flick, it was a cinematic event. It marked the rebirth of the serial adventure genre, those pulpy cliffhanger stories from the 1930s and 40s that inspired generations of moviegoers. Spielberg and George Lucas, hot off the success of Star Wars, wanted to recreate that same feeling, the sense of exotic danger, lost civilizations, and a hero who could punch Nazis and still make it to class on Monday morning. The origins of Raiders date back to 1977, when Lucas pitched the idea to Spielberg during a Hawaiian vacation. Literally, while they were relaxing on the beach after Star Wars opened, Spielberg had mentioned he'd always wanted to direct a James Bond film, and Lucas replied, "I've got something better. It's called Raiders of the Lost Ark." From that beach conversation came one of the cinema's most enduring icons, Dr. Henry Indiana Jones Jr. The screenplay was written by Lawrence Kasdan, who'd later pen The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The combination of Lucas's imagination, Kasdan's sharp writing, and Spielberg's directorial energy created lightning in a bottle. Casting was another crucial piece of the puzzle. Tom Selleck was originally slated to play Indy, but CBS wouldn't release him from his Magnum PI contract. Fate intervened, and the role went to Harrison Ford, whose natural charisma, wit, and rugged charm turned Indy into an instant legend. Production began in 1980, with filming locations stretching from Tunisia to Hawaii, England, and France. The shoot wasn't without its struggles, though. Searing desert heat, sandstorms, and illness even struck the cast and crew. In fact, one of those famous moments in the history I'm sure we all know, the scene where Indy casually shoots the swordsman, came from Harrison Ford being far too sick to perform the elaborate fight choreography, as he was suffering from dysentery, I believe. What was meant to be a massive set piece turned into one of the funniest, most iconic improvisations in film history. Behind the camera, Spielberg worked closely with cinematographer Douglas Siocombe, whose dynamic framing and bold lighting gave Raiders that classic golden adventure look. Every shadow, every silhouette, every glint of sunlight on Indy's fedora was composed with painterly care. And of course, we can't forget John Williams' legendary score. That heroic brass theme, the Raiders March, might be one of the most recognizable pieces of film music ever composed. It captures everything about Indy in just a few notes: bravery, curiosity, and a hint of danger. When Raiders of the Lost Ark hit theaters in June 1981, it was an instant smash. Critics praised its energy, audience lined up around the block, and it became the highest-grossing film of the year. What Spielberg and Lucas created wasn't just a hit, It was a blueprint. It was a modern blockbuster. The modern blockbuster owes much of its DNA to Raiders, as much as Jaws. So, let's crack open the arc itself and talk about the story that defined adventure cinema for a generation. Our story begins in 1936, deep in the jungles of South America, where the air hums with tension and the promise of discovery. Here we meet Dr. Indiana Jones, archaeologist, professor, and adventurer, a man whose whip and fedora are as iconic as his relentless curiosity. In this opening sequence, Indy leads a small expedition into a booby-trapped temple in search of a golden idol. Every step is a lesson in suspense, dark traps, collapsing floors, and of course, the legendary rolling boulder. In one of cinema's great introductions, a character defined not by dialogue, but by movement, courage, and that glint of obsession in his eye. But even as Indy escapes with his life, his rival Belloc is waiting right outside, smooth, smug, and ready to steal all of Indy's hard work. It's our first lesson in Raiders, that knowledge and greed are often separated by just a few moral inches. Indy returns to his quiet life at Marshall College, chalk in hand, lecturing on ancient civilizations to a room full of swooning students. But his calm doesn't last. Two government agents arrive with a mission. The Nazis are searching for a mysterious artifact called the Ark of the Covenant. According to legend, the Ark holds the remains of the Ten Commandments and immense divine power. The Nazis believe it will make their army invincible. Indy's mentor, Abner Ravenwood, is the key to finding the Ark's resting place. So Indy sets out to locate Abner, but instead finds Marion Ravenwood, Abner's daughter, and Indy's estranged former flame. We meet Marion in the smoky warmth of the Nepalese tavern, out drinking locals, fiercely independent and still furious at Indy for the way he left her years ago. But when Nazi agents attack the bar in search of the mysterious medallion, the headpiece to the Staff of Ra, Marion and Indy have no choice but to join forces. Together they flee to Cairo, where the tone shifts from snowy mountains to sun-soaked chaos. Here we're introduced to Salah, Indy's loyal friend and dig expert, a warm-hearted guide who grounds the film's adventure in camaraderie and humor. Their goal, locate the Well of Souls, the chamber said to contain the Ark. Using the Staff of Ra and the headpiece, Indy determines the true location of the Ark, realizing that Belloc and the Nazis are digging in the wrong place. The map room sequence that follows is one of the film's most beautiful and iconic moments. As sunlight pours into the tiny crystal on the staff's headpiece, a golden beam stretches across the miniature city model, revealing the Ark's resting place. Williams' score swells as Indy, silhouetted by the rising sun, becomes both scientist and believer. From there, the pace accelerates. Indy and Salah uncover the Ark deep within the earth, but their triumph, again, is short-lived. Belloc and the Nazis ambush them, stealing the Ark and sealing Indy and Marion alive inside the Well of Souls. What follows is both terrifying and symbolic. A tomb of writhing snakes, skeletons, and crumbling stone. It's a perfect metaphor for the danger of unearthing what should remain buried. Using ingenuity and a touch of defiance, Indy and Marion escape, sparking one of the greatest chase sequences in film history. From truck-top brawls to desert dust clouds, Spielberg crafts pure cinematic momentum. The truck chase isn't just an action scene, it's storytelling through motion, showing Indy's determination and reckless will to protect something sacred from falling into the wrong hands. But as we reach the climax, on a remote island in the Aegean Sea, Indy's rational mind faces its ultimate test. Belloc and the Nazis prepare to open the Ark in a ritual ceremony, convinced they can harness its divine power. Indy and Marion, bound and helpless, can only watch, until Indy makes the critical choice to...
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion, don't look at it no matter what happens.
He doesn't need proof anymore. He believes. When the Ark is opened, a serene light fills the air, then turns deadly. Spirits emerge, beauty gives way to horror, and divine wrath consumes the invaders. Faces melt, lightning strikes, and the Ark's power reveals itself not as treasure, but as judgment. It's a haunting, unforgettable ending. The artifact, once a symbol of glory and discovery, becomes a reminder that some mysteries are not meant to be controlled. The final scene brings us full circle. The Ark is boxed up by government bureaucrats, stored away in a nameless warehouse, lost again among countless other relics. The world moves on, but the mystery endures. And for Indy, it's not about ownership or triumph. It's all about reverence. He's seen what happens when human ambition collides with the divine, and it leaves him changed. Where Raiders of the Lost Ark began with a man chasing gold through the jungle, it ends with a man humbled by forces far greater than himself. It's a journey from control to surrender, from skepticism to belief, the kind of transformation that lingers long after the credits roll. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark may look like a pulpy adventure on the surface, but underneath there's a lot going on still, thematically, symbolically, and even spiritually, like the allure and danger of knowledge. Indiana Jones is an archaeologist driven by curiosity, but his adventures constantly remind us of that knowledge, especially sacred knowledge, can be precious. The Ark represents ultimate truth, but it also exposes human arrogance. Those who seek to control it are destroyed by it. Indy's journey teaches humility. That discovery should serve understanding, not domination. Another favorite to focus on in terms of thematic threads is the ongoing tension between faith and rationalism. It's easy to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and get swept up in the spectacle, the chases, the humor, the globe-trotting adventure, but underneath all that pulp energy is a film deeply interested in belief. In many ways, it's not just a treasure hunt, it's a spiritual test. At the start of the film, Indiana Jones is a perfect man of reason. He's a scholar, an archaeologist, and a skeptic. He believes in facts, evidence, and ancient artifacts as tangible history, not as vessels of divine power. His tools are the map, the notebook, and the trowel, not prayer or prophecy. When the government agents brief him about the Ark and its supposed powers, Indy waves off the mythology almost dismissively. He's fascinated by it academically, not spiritually. For him, the Ark is a relic of cultural significance, not an instrument of God. But that's what's brilliant about Raiders, is how Spielberg and Lucas subtly guide both Indy and the audience from skepticism toward awe. As the film unfolds, the evidence of something greater begins to pile up, literally and figuratively. The medallion, the inscriptions, the strange energies surrounding the Ark and what it can do. They all hint that maybe the old stories aren't just stories. Every step Indy takes deeper into that mystery blurs the line between historical truth and divine reality. You can really see the shift in his body language and tone. At first he's brash, dismissive, even cocky, the kind of guy who can punch his way out of anything. But as the supernatural elements start to manifest, he grows quieter, more reverent. When he's face to face with forces he can't quantify, he doesn't try to conquer them, he submits to them. The climax of the film drives the theme home perfectly. On the Nazi island, as the Ark is opened, Indy's rational mind recognizes that something holy, something untouchable is happening. He doesn't need proof anymore. He doesn't need to look. He tells Marion,
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion. Don't look at it no matter what happens.
It's one of those simple but powerful moments where the film shifts from adventure to revelation. Indy, the man of science, closes his eyes, not in fear, but in faith. He chooses reverence over curiosity, humility over control, and the act of surrender literally saves his life. The Nazis, on the other hand, are consumed by their desire to see, to possess, to understand the divine by force, and that destroys them. There's an incredible irony in that. The archaeologist survives by not looking, while the conquerors perish because they can't resist. It's a spiritual metaphor wrapped in a language of pulp cinema, and it works beautifully. It's also a reflection of something Spielberg has explored throughout his career. The tension between human reason and the mysterious, the divine, the unknowable. You can see it in Close Encounters of a Third Kind, E.T., even Schindler's List. The idea that belief, empathy, and wonder are what separate us from the cold machinery of logic and power. In Raiders, that theme resonates through Indy's transformation. He begins as a cynic, a man chasing relics from museums, trophies, and glory, but ends as a believer in something bigger than himself. He's still the same whip-cracking adventurer, but he carries a quiet respect for the unseen now. There's even an argument to be made that Raiders isn't just about the Ark, but about how faith and reason can coexist, how science without humility becomes hubris, and how belief without understanding becomes blind zealotry. Indy finds a balance between the two. He's not preaching, he's respecting. And that balance is what keeps him human. It's what separates him from the villains who represent the extremes, the Nazi occultists obsessed with divine power, and Belloc, the archaeologist who's Indy's mirror image, but corrupted by ambition. Belloc says early on,
"You and I are very much alike. Archaeology is our religion, yet we have both fallen from the pure faith."
But by the end, that's no longer true. Belloc worships the Ark as an object of control. Indy reveres it as a mystery beyond comprehension. So when the Ark unleashes its fury, spirits, fire, light, it's not just the climax of an adventure story, it's the moral resolution. Faith in its pure form protects. Rationalism, when tempered by humility, survives, but arrogance, the desire to dominate the divine, is punished. And that's what gives Raiders its staying power. It's not just about adventure, it's about awe, about recognizing that in all our exploration and discovery there are still things worth bowing our heads to. Mysteries we're not meant to own, only to understand. It's a subtle message, tucked between whips and rolling boulders, but I see it there. The idea that sometimes the smartest thing that you can do is close your eyes and believe. Following up, we have the whole legacy of empire and cultural respect. There's a complex undercurrent to Raiders, a tension between exploration and exploitation. While it's rooted in old adventure serials, Spielberg often undercuts the colonialist tone by showing Indy as a man torn between academia and conscience. He's not plundering for profit, he's preserving history. The Nazis, by contrast, embody greed and desecration, as well as much as the hero archetype we have with Indiana Jones. He's literally like a modern myth. The whip, the hat, the scars. He's a mortal hero in the mold of Hercules or Odysseus, some epic man. He's brilliant but flawed, charming, and if not reckless. Spielberg gives us a hero who bleeds, who fails, who doubts, and that's what makes him truly timeless. Another theme we have is the divine power as moral reckoning. The Ark's destructive power isn't random, it's judgment. It's the film's ultimate moral symbol, a reminder that evil, no matter how powerful, will be undone by forces greater than man. When the Ark's energy erupts, it's cinematic justice, both thrilling and terrifying. I remember getting nightmares as a child renting that from Blockbuster. Most kids I've met were also scared of the melting face man by the end of the film. As a final theme, we can explore cinema as escapism and revelation. Raiders represents the pure joy of filmmaking. Every shot, every chase, every punch is crafted with glee of a storyteller who grew up loving movies. It's not just about the story, it's about rediscovering wonder. In a way, Raiders itself is kind of like a modern Ark, a vessel preserving the adventure spirit of the old world for new generations. So as the credits roll on Raiders of the Lost Ark, we're left with more than just the thrill of adventure. We're left with that quiet reminder that discovery, no matter how thrilling, is always tied to belief, to faith in something larger than ourselves, even if we can't quite explain it. It's a theme that runs deeper than dusty tombs and ancient relics. It's about curiosity balanced with humility. The idea that in chasing knowledge, we might also uncover parts of our own humanity. And interestingly enough, that same pulse, that search for wonder wrapped in danger, echoes all the way across the world into another cinematic treasure, Castle in the Sky. Both Raiders and Castle in the Sky are, at their core, stories about the human hunger to uncover a lost world, about our ambition and our wonder that can lift us to the heavens, or destroy us if we forget the balance between knowledge and respect. Where Raiders explores faith versus rationalism through the lens of Western archaeology and myth, Castle in the Sky transforms that same question into a fable of technology and nature. Both films warn us that power without reverence leads to ruin, and both leave us gazing upward, towards something we can never fully possess, only honor. It's fascinating how two filmmakers oceans apart, Spielberg and Hayao Miyazaki, both wrestled with the same timeless question. What happens when humanity's reach outgrows its heart? Next episode, we'll follow that question straight into the clouds. We'll trade whips and fedora for flight goggles and crystal amulets, and explore how Castle in the Sky carried the spirit of pulp adventure into the realm of animation and wonder, weaving faith, technology, and innocence into one breathtaking vision. Until then, keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and remember, sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't the ones we find in the dirt, but the ones that lift us off the ground. This has been Retro Collections with JR, and I'll see you next time, up there, somewhere between the clouds and the past.